The Hürtgen Forest did not look like a battlefield. It looked like something older, something that had been waiting long before any war had begun. The trees were impossibly tall, their branches overlapping so thickly they swallowed the daylight. Mist clung to the ground, never fully lifting, settling into every hollow, every trench, every open wound. On the morning of November 2, 1944, Fox Company, 112th Infantry Regiment received their orders. Advance 3 miles into the forest. Secure Hill 489. Hold it until relieved. Simple on paper. Impossible in reality. The officers knew it. The men felt it. But orders were orders. Captain Warren Hale, 31 years old, calm face, voice steady even under shellfire, read the briefing as his men stood in silence. They listened, but their eyes weren't on him. They were fixed on the treeline ahead. It looked like a mouth. The forest had already eaten thousands. They had heard the stories. Everyone had. Patrols that vanished. Artillery that never struck where it was aimed. German machine gun nests that seemed to reposition themselves like ghosts. Men who came out wild-eyed and shaking, unable to describe what they had seen. But the maps were clear. The objective was there. And the war wasn't going to stop for them. So they stepped forward. The fog absorbed them one by one, helmets, rifles, breath, heartbeat, until there was no battalion, no formation, no line. Just shapes dissolving into a gray world where sound did not echo. Boots sank into mud softened by a week of cold rain. Needles and dead branches snapped underfoot. The smell of pine mixed with damp earth, gun oil and nerves. Private Ellis, 19, from Ohio, whispered, "Why's it so quiet?" No one answered. It was the kind of silence that felt alive. Listening. Considering. Their compasses behaved strangely. Bearings shifted. Radio signals hissed and cracked. The forest canopy filtered the light into a permanent twilight, making noon look like dusk. They moved slower. Their world shrank to the visibility of a few yards. Their rifles felt heavier. Then came the first sound, soft, controlled, precise. A single rifle shot. Private Harrington fell. No scream. No struggle. Just collapse. No muzzle flash. No direction. No movement in the trees. The men froze. Captain Hale signaled cover. But there was nowhere to hide. The forest was the enemy. Another shot. Then another. No voices. Only breathing. The battalion tried to retreat 2 steps, but the path they came from wasn't there anymore. The fog had closed behind them like a door. They had only been in the forest for 40 minutes. Already the forest had taken one. And it would not be the last. They moved deeper, not because they wanted to, but because every direction felt the same, and stopping meant becoming part of the silence that already pressed against their helmets. Captain Hale signaled a staggered formation, but formation had stopped meaning anything. The trees allowed only single file. One man at a time. One breath at a time. The fog thickened. The forest floor sloped, then dipped, then rose, a terrain that seemed to shift underfoot. Hill 489 should have been ahead. Every map said so. Every briefing insisted so. Yet the compasses wavered like spinning coins trying to choose a side. Private Ellis murmured again, voice trembling this time. "Sir, are we still heading east?" Captain Hale didn't answer. Because he didn't know. And the men could see it in his eyes. They passed what looked like a German foxhole, then another, then another. All empty. Abandoned. But the sandbags were freshly packed. The soil was wet. The impressions of boots in the mud looked no older than an hour. Someone had been here. Someone might still be here. The silence didn't feel natural anymore. It felt positioned. Deliberate. As if the forest was waiting for them to speak first. Then a whisper, too soft to be wind, floated between the trunks. "Amerikaner." The men froze. Every rifle aimed blindly in different directions. Eyes flicked. Breath held. Nerves snapped tight. But there were no voices following it. No footfalls. No movement. Just fog. The battalion advanced again, but now each step felt like trespassing. Hours passed. Or something like hours. Time did not behave normally under the canopy. The light never brightened, never dimmed. The forest had no morning and no afternoon, only before and after the men walked into it. When they found the first set of bodies, they did not recognize the uniforms at first. They were American. But the insignia was from a unit reported to have withdrawn 3 days earlier. Except these bodies were freshly dead. One man was leaning against a tree, eyes open, hands still gripping his rifle. Another was face down in the mud. No bullet wounds. No blast wounds. No struggle. They had simply stopped. as though something had taken the will before it took the life. Private Donnelly whispered a prayer under his breath. Private Ellis vomited into the leaves. Sergeant Brooks forced his voice steady. We move now. But the pathway behind them was gone again. Fog had changed the shapes of the trees. The forest did not just block the way, it rearranged it. Night should have come. But it didn't. Instead, the air grew colder. The fog grew thicker. The light grew thinner. The battalion set perimeter, if a ring of exhausted men could be called that. No fires. Matches refused to light anyway. The air was too wet. The ground swallowed everything. The radio operator, Corporal Jenkins, one of the best, adjusted, recalibrated, rewired. Static. Nothing but static. Then, something else. A whisper of transmission buried under crackling ether. Turn back. He froze. The blood drained from his face. Captain Hale asked, "Who is that?" "Command?" Jenkins shook his head. "That's our frequency, sir. But, it's not American." The whisper came again. Closer. Come. Confident. Turn back. Leave this place. The forest was speaking in human voices now. Not enemy German voices. Not Allied voices. Voices of men who sounded already lost. Some soldiers began to panic quietly. Their boots shifted. Their grips loosened. Fear spreads differently in a forest. It doesn't explode, it seeps. Captain Hale forced his voice low, firm. If we lose discipline, we lose everything. We are together. Understand? The men nodded because nodding was easier than believing. As they rested without resting, something moved between the trees. Not fast. Not loud. Just there, one moment, gone the next. No shape. No footsteps. Just the sense of being watched. Brooks whispered, "Sir, we're being herded." Hale didn't disagree. Because it was true. They weren't fighting a German unit. They weren't fighting artillery or machine guns or bunkers. They were fighting a place. A place that did not want them. The Hürtgen Forest did not attack. It absorbed. It changed direction when they walked. It swallowed sound. It erased trails. It waited for nightfall that never came, and for daylight that never returned. The forest had patience. The men did not. And somewhere between the roots and fog and breath and heartbeat, the battalion began to understand. They were not going to take Hill 489. They were not going to hold ground. They were not going to complete the mission. They were not going to return the way they came. The forest had already decided that. They had not vanished yet, but the vanishing had begun. The battalion marched again at first light, though light was hardly the word. A pale grayness hovered between the trees, diffused, directionless. No shadows. No sun. Only awareness. Sergeant Brooks led now. Captain Hale followed close behind, though neither spoke it aloud. The captain was losing certainty and everyone knew it. Bootsteps sank into soil softened by unseen moisture. Every movement was muffled. Every breath felt loud enough to betray them. The trees closed in tighter, their trunks pressed like ribs around a heart that beat somewhere deep inside the forest. The air carried a faint scent of iron. Not quite blood, but something like it. Something old. Private Ellis stopped walking. He lifted his head slowly as if waking from underwater. "Do you hear that?" he whispered. The men listened. At first, nothing. Then, footsteps. But not theirs. Soft. Measured. Following. Captain Hale raised a hand. "Hold." They listened harder. The footsteps stopped when they stopped. Private Donnelly's voice cracked. "They're tracking us." But there was no enemy to see, no muzzle flash, no figure in gray. Just the oppressive, watchful stillness. The forest wanted them to know they were not alone. It wanted them to feel hunted. And they did. They reached what might once have been a road, broken stone half swallowed by moss. A rusted signpost leaned, unreadable, the letters eaten by time or acid rain or maybe something else. The forest consumed everything slowly. It did not rush. Corporal Jenkins tried the radio again, pressing his ear against the receiver, shaking his head, static. Then, a voice. Not a whisper this time. Clear. Cold. Too close. "Hale." Every man stiffened. The voice had spoken the captain's name. Jenkins' hand trembled. Sir, that's coming from inside the frequency. Not transmitting. Receiving." Hale felt something primitive squeeze inside his chest. Another voice layered behind the first, rasped, exhausted, broken. "We couldn't get out, don't try." The men recognized it. Someone they knew. Someone from their own division. Someone listed as missing in action. The forest did not just kill. It kept. Night did not fall again, time simply thinned. The men walked until walking no longer meant movement. They rested without sleep. They ate without hunger. Their footsteps slowed, not because they were tired but because they could no longer remember why they were moving. Private Ellis stopped mid-step and turned around. "I'm going back," he said softly. "I remember the way now." But there was no way back. The trees behind him had shifted again. The path he pointed to was not a path, just more dark trunks. "Ellis," Sergeant Brooks said quietly, "stay with the unit." Ellis blinked. He looked at Brooks as though he was looking at a stranger. "I don't remember you." His eyes were blank. Not frightened. Not lost. Just empty. The forest had taken something from him and no one knew how to return it. Captain Hale stepped forward, gripping Ellis's shoulder. "Stay with us, soldier. Do you understand?" Ellis nodded slowly. But his eyes remained hollow. Then came the gunshot. Sudden. Final. Private Donnelly collapsed before anyone saw the shooter. No enemy rifle report followed. No echo. Just silence. The men dove for cover, aiming rifles at every direction at once. But there was nothing to fire at. Brooks shouted, "Where? Where are they?" But he already knew the truth. There was no they. The forest had fired the shot, or the fear had, or something that moved where men could not see. Hale's hands shook as he checked Donnelly, but the man was already gone. Eyes open. Like the others they had found. Ellis began sobbing, quietly childlike. The battalion was no longer marching. It was unraveling. They left Donnelly where he fell. Not because they wanted to, but because burying him required tools they no longer had: strength, clarity, purpose. The forest took names first. Then the faces. Then the men. One by one. Not in a single moment of violence. But slowly. Methodically. Inevitably. By the time Captain Hale realized the battalion was no longer 27 men but 16, there was no shock, no panic. Just the quiet acceptance of a sentence already handed down. The Hürtgen Forest did not defeat them in battle. It erased them. It made them part of itself. This was not war. This was consumption. Night didn't fall over the Hürtgen Forest. It collapsed. As if the sun had simply decided it would never return to this place again. The wind was gone. The branches no longer creaked. The whole forest held its breath. Captain Miller moved at the front of the formation, boots sinking into the wet loam, his flashlight switched off. No one wanted light. No one wanted sound. Every exhale, every shift of weight felt like betrayal. Behind him, Hargrove whispered, voice cracked and thin. "None of this makes sense. Those shells didn't detonate. The mines were old. Like someone planted them decades ago." Samson answered without turning. "No. Not decades. Generations. These trenches, these aren't German positions. These are older." The men stopped. Trenches emerged out of the dark. Not marked on any map. Not listed in any report. They ran crooked and warped through the forest floor. Wood-rotted, soil packed tight with age, moss-choking bullets that had fallen a lifetime ago. They were silent. Too silent. Like open graves. The captain raised his fist. Inside. Quiet. Nobody breaks formation. They descended. The air changed. Damp. Metallic. And something else. Something like rusted iron on the back of a tongue. Like blood gone cold. Inside the trench, the walls were scarred. Long grooves. Fingernail grooves. Not new. Not fresh. Ancient. As if someone had once tried to claw their way out. For days. Or weeks. Or years. Hargrove swallowed hard. "Captain, why would—" "Don't speak," Miller murmured. They moved deeper. An old Maxim machine gun rested near a corner junction, its barrel flaked with rust, tripod collapsing under weight and time. Shell casings lay scattered, eaten away by age. Uniform scraps, faded, colorless, lay flattened under the mud like shed skins. Samson knelt slowly. He lifted a helmet. A round bullet hole sat dead center in the brow. "This isn't 1944, he whispered. "It's 1917. Hargrove stepped backward, boots slipping, breath breaking. Behind him, the snap. Rifles rose instantly. But no enemy. Just a row of rifles, planted upright in the earth. Stock buried. Barrel to the sky. A grave marker row. 28 in total. The exact number of men who vanished. Silence deepened. A silence that listened back. Then came the first whisper. Not language. Memory. Samson's mouth trembled. "That's not the wind." Hargrove's legs shook. "Captain, tell me there's an explanation for this. Tell me this is something we can write down." Something we can understand. But Miller didn't answer. Because he heard it too. The forest was speaking. Not aloud, inside. Not voices, remembrance. Names. Regrets. Crimes. Confessions no man had ever spoken out loud. The captain's chest tightened. A name surfaced unbidden. Yolanda. His wife. He hadn't said that name in days. No one here knew it. But the forest did. Then one of the men screamed. A figure moved between the distant trees, limping, bent, twisted at angles no human frame should allow. The rifle steadied. Hold fire. Miller shouted. The figure stopped. Its uniform was American, but torn, rotted, blackened by earth and time. Its face wrapped in old bandages. Samson stepped forward, voice trembling. Soldier, identify yourself. The figure lifted its head. There were no eyes, just two hollow, glistening pits. The unit fired. The figure crumpled. Silence again. But the sound that followed was not silence. Footsteps. Heavy. Slow. Many. Marching. But not with boots. More like weight without bone. Movement without muscle. Captain, Hargrove whispered, nearly sobbing. We are not alone. Miller didn't raise his hand to stop them this time. Fall back. Now. They ran. But the forest shifted. The trees closed. The ground angled wrong. Paths reversed. Direction dissolved. The woods weren't surrounding them. They were steering them. Samson stumbled, falling near another collapsed trench wall. His hand dug into the mud and touched a face. Not a corpse fresh with death. A soldier preserved by the wet and cold, mouth frozen in a scream that had never stopped. A U.S. dog tag hung at his neck. Sipo R. Driscoll, U.S. 112th F. Kia, 1918. Hargrove fell to his knees. This isn't our war. This is older, far older. Miller hauled him up. Do not think. Do not feel. Do not listen. Follow my steps. But the whispers only grew louder. Not words. Accusations. The forest didn't echo voices. It exposed truths. And that was worse than any German rifle. A pale glow appeared ahead. They broke through the tree-line and froze. The clearing stretched wide and silent. No stars. No wind. No sound but their own heartbeats. And there, standing at attention, was the 2nd Battalion. All of them. Bodies decayed. Uniforms shredded. Helmets cracked. Bones visible through splitting cloth. But standing. At attention. Formation perfect. Waiting. Not hostile. Present. Hargrove fell backward. Samson's rifle dropped from his hand. Miller felt a weight settle in his chest. Something older than fear. Reverence. The formation slowly raised their arms. Not to attack. To salute. A salute of honor. A greeting. A welcome. The captain understood. The forest did not keep prisoners. It kept witnesses. And now, they were next in line. The clearing remained still. Rows of soldiers, dead, preserved, waiting. Uniforms faded, eyes hollow, but posture disciplined and perfect. The men of the 121st felt the air tighten in their lungs. Captain Miller stepped forward slowly. Not with fear. With recognition. These were not ghosts in the way men told stories. They were remains of duty. Bodies anchored by memory, by unfinished orders, by wars that never ended once the bullets stopped. Private Hargrove's breathing hitched, uneven and high. Captain, what do we do? Miller didn't answer at first. He looked at the faces, jawlines collapsed, skin paper thin, but every one of them still wearing the expression of men who refused to leave their post. They're waiting, Miller whispered. For what? Samson asked. For us, the captain replied, voice low. Or for someone to tell them they can stop. A rusted officer stepped forward from the front row. His shoulder patch, barely visible, marked him as a lieutenant from the 1917 American Expeditionary Forces. His spine bowed as though centuries had pressed on it. He raised his hand to his helmet. A salute. Sure. Crisp. Unwavering. Miller did the same. The clearing held its breath. Then, a sound. Not from the forest. From above. Artillery. Distant at first. Then closer. Then closer. Whistling through the air like something ancient being awakened. Samson's voice cracked. That's ours? That's our artillery. Hargrove turned, horror spreading across his face. They think this sector is abandoned. They're going to shell the trench line. The world erupted. The first shell hit the opposite ridge in a bloom of fire and soil. The blast threw Samson into the mud. Miller grabbed him, pulling him behind the shattered trench wall. More explosions. more concussive shock waves shaking the bones inside their chests. The dead battalion did not move. They stood in silence, accepting the fire, as they once had. Miller shouted above the bombardment, "We have to move. Go. Now." But Hargrove wasn't moving. He was staring at the standing dead. "They're staying," he whispered. "They're staying because this is where they died. This is where they belong." The next shell struck the clearing. Torsos shredded. Bones splintered. Uniforms vaporized. And still, those who remained standing did not fall. Sampson and Miller dragged Hargrove away, forcing his legs to move, forcing his mind to look away. The forest's paths twisted again. Branches closed. Earth shifted. But now the forest was not trapping them. It was pushing them out, as if it had shown them what it needed to show, and was finished with them. They stumbled through a break in the woods, collapsing into open ground. Blinding gray daylight. Snowfall. Distant artillery thunder rolling in waves. American medics rushed toward them, shouting. The captain could not hear the words. He was still hearing the clearing. Still hearing the silence. Still hearing the salute. Weeks later, Field Hospital, Belgium. Miller sat upright in a white cot, uniform folded beside him. Doctors called it exhaustion, shock, forest exposure. The official report listed the patrol as incomplete reconnaissance due to unexpected artillery overlap. No mention of trenches. No mention of the clearing. No mention of the battalion. Sampson had been transferred. Hargrove had not spoken since extraction. Miller stared at the report papers in his hands. He could sign. He could lie. He could let the forest stay forgotten. He lowered the pen and wrote, "We found them. They never left. They never surrendered. They are still standing." The officer reviewing his report shook his head. "Captain, no one will believe this." Miller looked out the frost-covered window. "It doesn't matter if they believe it," he said. "It matters that we remember them." Documentary conclusion, narration tone. The U.S. Army listed the disappearance of those 28 men as unresolved. No bodies recovered. No confirmed burial site. Their names remain carved in stone, but not in memory. The Hürtgen Forest remains one of the darkest battlefields in Europe. Travelers still report silence that comes too quickly. Shadows that do not align with branches. Footsteps that follow but do not echo. Some say the forest holds on to soldiers who die within it. Not as ghosts, but as witnesses. Standing in formation. Waiting for the order to rest. Until someone finally tells them, "You may go home now."